We say Schlickizestaslayu, Wizard, Tuditran, Wgemodan Wntgire, Juir. It was nearing midnight when I found myself standing before the entrance of Shadows Station, a place I had only ever heard of in the horror stories old men whispered in cafes. I had lost my way after a foolish argument with my girlfriend, and my ancient car chose that exact moment to break down at the darkest point of a deserted rural road. Rain began pouring heavily, and the wind whistled through the bare trees surrounding me like pale skeletal arms reaching out. I had no choice but to move toward the abandoned building, which looked like a massive stone skull, its rusted jaws gaping wide to devour whoever dared enter. I pushed the heavy iron gate, and it let out a long, agonizing screech that tore through the silence of the night like a dying scream. The stench of mold, dampness, and crystallized earth assaulted my senses. I pulled my flashlight from my pocket. Its weak beam pierced the thick darkness, revealing dust floating in the air like miniature ghosts. The main hall was vast and deserted. Wooden ticket booths lay shattered, iron benches twisted and scattered, and the walls were covered in strange symbols and carvings that looked like a language long forgotten. The sound of water dripping from the ceiling was the only rhythm in that suffocating silence. I decided to explore, hoping to find a map or an exit sign. My footsteps echoed loudly in the empty hall, as if someone were walking behind me, mimicking every move. I stopped suddenly, and the echo stopped too. But 2 seconds later, I heard one extra step, clear and unmistakable. I spun around, my flashlight darting across the dark corners. Nothing. Nothing but long shadows playing among the drifting dust. Just imagination, I whispered to myself, trying to calm my nerves. I headed toward the corridor leading to the platform. The air there was colder, wetter. My fear began to morph into real terror when I realized the platform had no end. It should have stopped at the station's boundary, yet my beam vanished into darkness without ever touching a wall. I heard soft, rapid breathing behind me, closer this time. I didn't dare turn around. I began to walk faster. Then I ran. My footsteps thundered, but they were not alone. Another pair followed, lighter, quicker, impossibly close. I tripped and crashed onto the icy ground. My flashlight rolled away, its flickering beam illuminating 2 thin, pale legs standing a few meters from me. I couldn't see the rest of the body. It dissolved into darkness above the knees. The light died. Absolute darkness. All I could hear was my heart hammering in my ears. Then, far ahead, a greenish mist began to form in the darkness. It shaped itself into an old signal sign like the one at the station entrance, but now it floated in the air. The number displayed wasn't a waiting time. It was my date of birth. Panicking, I fumbled for my flashlight, pressing the button again and again. Nothing. My hand closed around a small stone. I threw it into the darkness to judge distance by sound. It never landed. Instead, I heard it hit something seconds later. Then again. And again. Each impact closer than the last, as if the bottomless pit it fell into was moving toward me. I backed away until I hit a cold, wet wall. The surface shifted under my fingers. These weren't drawings. They were deep grooves. And when I touched them, I knew exactly what they were. Claw marks. I screamed and bolted blindly through the darkness, racing through corridors I didn't remember, beneath stone arches dripping salty water, until I burst into what seemed like the old boiler room. I slammed the heavy iron door shut and leaned against it, gasping. The air inside was unnaturally hot and dry, carrying a faint sulfuric scent. At the center stood a massive rusted boiler, orange light leaking from its choking opening, casting restless shadows along the walls. Then I heard the whispers. Not one, but dozens, hundreds. Voices in languages I didn't know, seeping from the walls, the pipes, the boiler itself. They were talking about me. They recalled forgotten moments, buried shame, memories I had tried to erase. "Stop!" I screamed, clutching my ears. But the whispers weren't outside. They were inside my head. My gaze drifted to a darker corner of the room where the shadows were unnaturally thick. There, I saw myself, sitting on the floor, head in hands. Exactly like me. Slowly, that other version lifted its head and smiled. A wide, unnatural grin filled with sharp, jagged teeth. It wasn't a reflection. It was something else. I rushed to the door, sealed, fused to the wall. The boiler began to shake, the orange glow intensifying. The whispers erupted into laughter, sobbing, screaming. The thing that looked like me stood up, its movements jerky and wrong, as if it were learning how to use my body. Desperate, I spotted a broken iron pipe leading into a hole in the wall. I crawled in without hesitation. It was narrow and jagged, tearing my clothes and skin. I crawled for what felt like hours as the pipe tightened around me. Behind me, something crawled too, scratching, speeding closer. I burst out onto cold tile flooring. The station bathrooms. Dim light from shattered ceiling windows revealed broken stalls and cracked mirrors. Every mirror reflected a distorted version of me, blackened eyes, predatory smiles, or a shadow standing just behind my shoulder. I turned on a sink to splash water on my face. Rusty liquid flowed out, then turned thick and dark red. Blood. The smell was overwhelming. I shut the tap, but the blood kept pouring, spilling onto the floor, creeping toward me. I fled onto another platform. This one was impossibly clean, lit by old gas lamps casting steady yellow light. The air was still, odorless. On a bench sat a man in an old suit and hat. Hope flickered. "Excuse me," I called. "I need help. This place." He lowered his newspaper. He had no face. Where features should be, there was only smooth, pale skin. He raised a warped finger and pointed behind me. A train stood there, ancient wooden cars, dark windows. One door was open, waiting. "Does it run?" I asked. No answer, just the gesture. I boarded. The train moved without sound, accelerating into a tunnel that wasn't stone but something organic, pulsing softly. Faces formed and dissolved in its walls, screaming silently. Eventually it stopped. Another shadow station, mirrored. In the center stood my car, engine running, headlights on. I escaped. But sometimes, late at night, alone in my car, I hear whispers through the air vents or the static of the radio. In the rearview mirror, I glimpse that endless platform and someone who looks exactly like me, waving, smiling. My driver's license expiration date changed that night. It no longer matches the official record. Instead, it equals my birthday plus the exact number of days since that night at Shadow Station. The countdown has begun, and it is approaching 0.